Finally, just the news and no noise. Our next guest says that President Trump is facing resistance from the deep state over everything, yes, of course, but in this conversation, the release of UFO files that may even reveal a cover-up or two or three. Joining us to discuss this and more is Congressman representing the great state of Tennessee, Tim Burchett. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, ma'am. It's always a pleasure. Even a pleasure being on with John.
I
knew that was coming. I knew it.
Congressman, I have no doubt that President Trump is hitting up against the deep state because of cover-ups, but I imagine that there's also technology inside of these files. I imagine that there are encounters that are held within these files. What's the most damaging or damning that the deep state is so scared about getting out there?
That's a great question. It could be a myriad of many things. It could be a zero energy. It could be a fact that we'd have to retool to, some of our major industry would have to retool because we have this technology. And it could be just the arrogance of we don't know what the heck we've got and don't know what to do with it, and we're not going to tell anybody about it, which I think there's a lot of that going on with it. I think that you've got some things that we just can't understand. You see in the videos there are things that are flying at speeds that we can't achieve and at angles that we can't turn, and the amount of times flying on the surface and then going underwater and then coming out. We've just got too much testimony and too much out there. So and I think there's going to be some misinformation they're going to put out too in this next group of files, intentionally to screw us up. So which you cannot, when you obviously be able to see some of this stuff, obviously that it is a balloon or some of this other stuff. I've seen some of these videos. I'm wondering why the heck they're even putting them out. But I think the cover-up continues, and I do believe the president and the White House, the good guys, so to speak, are having a hard time with a lot of our alphabet agencies and the deep state. It's classic deep state versus America, and I hope. And I'm just grateful President Trump gave his word to us. He said he was going to release them. He made that commitment to me, and he's followed through with it. It's just how far can we get into it?
Yeah, well, we appreciate this march towards transparency. It always benefits the public. You said something important. I think Hollywood trained us to think of UFOs and look to the skies only, but there is a lot of UFO reporting that comes from beneath the water or off the shores, underwater. What should we expect to learn about that? Because that could be just as interesting.
I suspect very little. We've been able to map about, I think, less than 20% of the ocean floor, literally, the peaks and valleys and caves and things like that. It's kind of mysterious to me that over our 5 deep water areas that we know of in our oceans are where some of the most sightings that we have are, and we've had testimony that substantiates that. So I hope in the future that they just release everything, but they're going to hide behind national security and arrogance and all those other things. And President Trump's really, it just proves to you, when I'm in a meeting, one of these closed-door, double-secret meetings, so to speak, and I'm told that the president is on a need-to-know basis. To me, that is the antithesis of deep state arrogance.
That is.
Sir, I know that the pushback and the blockades are governmental, but if there was an industry that had a lot to gain from blocking the president, blocking you, blocking the American people from having this information, is it the aerospace industry? Is it the oil or the energy industry? Who has the most to gain from us being in the dark?
I think it's all of the above. Could you imagine if we had a zero-point energy that, we could heat homes in the winter and cool them in the summer? We wouldn't need the oil. We wouldn't need to fight all these worthless wars that the war pimps seem to want to get us into every day. And the missile defense folks, if you would come out with something that would just obliterate them or they wouldn't be able to compete with, then I'm sure that would be a reason to keep that stuff under wraps, because once it's out, something's going to get shot down and something's going to get pulled into a lab in one of our allies or enemies, and they're going to know it as soon as we know it. So I just think that I think the arrogance there is pretty apparent. And now that, with them saying that they don't exist, but then these but then, you know, they weren't covering anything up, but yet they kept these files under wraps since at least 1947. Like I said, it's not about little green men or flying saucers. It's what the heck are we spending all this dadgum money on? Tens of millions of dollars that we are, and then we're told by some departments now that, well, we'd love to research it if y'all could just give us a little more money. So I just wanted to release it, let me decide.
Congressman Burleson suggested a lot of the mystery may lie with contractors, the Beltway bandits who make a lot of money. It seems from your comments here that that may be one place that could be a rich place to investigate further.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's how if they've got anything, that's how they keep it from us, because you know in the media you can FOIA request a department in federal government, but you can't FOIA request a private enterprise like a Ford Motor Company or something. Not that I always use Ford as an example, but they're not, right, as far as I know, they're not in the UFO business. But the, you know, our aerospace, missile defense system groups, all of those folks, if you ever want to see arrogance, you can start there.
Yeah, I bet that's right.
Sir, you mentioned that in the following disclosures that you anticipate there will be fake information, poison pills possibly embedded in that information. How do you identify that? What are you looking for that you think could be fake?
I think some of it's just going to be so obvious, ma'am. You're going to see some things that you're going to say, I know what that is. That's such and such. Why in the world is that in these files? And that's exactly right. Why in the world is this in these files? And why is this being kept from us except to release something to throw us off the path? I believe this next tranche, or whatever you want to, I hate that word, but this next group of films will probably show that. If it's anything like I've seen, there's a couple in there that I think stand the test of reason, that there's something unidentifiable, but the majority of them, I think they're going to think, well, that's just some party boy and that escaped from some kid's party, and it's gotten into higher elevations, and the air pressure and the change in pressure and heat and cold has caused it to expand in some unusual shape. And, you know, when a plane's flying by something at several hundred miles an hour and it's standing still, it's going to look like it's going the opposite direction at an equal rate of speed or higher. And so I think you got to take all that into consideration. But the president and his people I've been in contact with the White House, and I believe that they are being held up, is what I believe.